I hope you've seen the previous video on 5 beginner mistakes when writing song lyrics. This one has 5 more, plus a bonus one if you watch carefully until the very end. I must say that these mistakes are mistakes only if you're trying to streamline your songwriting process, if you want your writer's block to go away, or if you want to have a stepwise approach to coming up with song lyrics. If it's okay for you to sit down and ponder about the lyrics, if it's okay for you to suffer the fear of the blank page, if you're fine with depending on inspiration and waiting until it hits you, then these are not mistakes, okay? Take notes if you want to improve your lyrics writing. By the way, I'm Vadusha and I'm the greatest expert in song lyrics in the entire world and maybe even on YouTube. And mistake number 1 is thinking that song lyrics are important and that they contribute to your track's success. Especially the piece you're writing right now, this one very piece of lyrics. No one really knows what makes a song successful. There's a huge variety of factors, but thinking that one of them is the very one factor that will take you to a successful place is completely wrong. So instead of thinking that the lyrics you're writing right now are the most important thing ever, focus on writing more and more lyrics. Let quantity come first and then convert it into quality by learning through writing and writing and writing over again. Of course, some of you may be geniuses and your lyrics could be perfect the very first time you write them, but I bet the chances of that are pretty slim. As always, if you want to learn to ride a bike, you have to ride the bike. If you want to learn to swim, you just have to swim. Why would it be any different with song lyrics? If you want to learn to write song lyrics, you have to write song lyrics over and over again. So often it makes much more sense to actually stop writing the lyrics you're writing right now, stop perfecting it, and instead go ahead and write a new piece of lyrics, and then a new one, and one more, and keep writing until you reach like 100. Your 101st piece of lyrics will be very good, I promise. Write, scribble, cross, redo it, check, correct, adjust. It does indeed seem like some bad fun. If your first song's like your first act of lust, why'd you think you're gonna have one? Following the advice from this channel will only allow you to shorten the path, probably be more efficient in the learning process. So it's a reasonable shortcut, but it'll cut your path by like 50 before you learn to properly write song lyrics. It'll not bring that to 0. So practice makes perfect. Okay, mistake number 2 is not editing your lyrics. So you write the text, you look at it, you use it in a song. Not quite so. Usually when you've written something, it's far from being perfect. All the syllables are off, the lines don't match, some rhymes are weak. Some people say it's their style, but this is one of the most obvious markers of beginner songwriters. When you see a piece of song lyrics, you can clearly say it's been written by a beginner. If the syllables are off, if the lines are not straight enough, so most of the times it's not your style, it's just you being lazy. And if your lines are not repetitive, if the syllable structure doesn't match, there better be a reason for that. This is best used to contrast things. If you have straight lines, straight lines, straight lines, and then an odd line, very messy and fussy, then the last line is contrasted to the very, very even part before it, and it pops out and makes the listener pay more attention to this line. Or vice versa, if your lyrics are all over the place and the last line is very much concise and very strict in its structure, it is contrasted to the overall composition, and then the listener's focus falls on that very line. So if you want to control the listener's focus, that's what you use. But when your lyrics are all over the place, generally with no purpose, this just presents you as a lazy songwriter. Knock it off with your syllables and rhyming. To you it is a mess, to me it is fine. That is exactly what was intended by me, deliberate and absolutely surely on purpose and by design. Speaking of lazy, mistake number 3 is using those cliches and overused lyrics writing patterns and metaphors and figures. Like saying, "You're my sunshine, my heart is broken," or "I can't live," or "I can't go on without you." "You're in my dreams," or "There's a fire like a burning desire," or "We're together forever." "There's something behind your mask," or "There's blood freezing in my veins." You get the idea. The rule of thumb is, if you can recall feel at least a couple of songs using the very same phrase, just don't use it. Unless you want to create an ironic effect. But this may result in some unwanted irony. So pay close attention to what kind of stylistic devices you're using. If they're obsolete, if they're overused, if they're too much cliche. I can't live with this burning desire. In my sweet dreams we are together. Behind your mask there's a passionate fire. Freezing blood in my veins forever. Broken heart, we're torn apart. Why we never fart. Another reason why you might want to be using those is when you're making a nod to a different song or an art piece, when you want to make an allusion or a reference. But most of the time those are very expressive, very bright and memorable stylistic devices, not those overused cliches. So this will come with practice probably. But don't get me wrong, you don't want to stop writing lyrics if you keep coming up with those cliches. Don't let this prevent you from practicing. If it's your first piece of lyrics, do by all means use any language you need. Any phrases, any metaphors, anything that works for you, anything that allows you to proceed to write more and more song lyrics is good. But if it's your, say, 20th or 50th piece, make sure you avoid these. Clean them up when you're experienced enough. Before that, don't be afraid to use anything. And speaking of going from beginner to advanced levels, mistake number 4 is writing lyrics to a pre-existing melody. This is not so much a mistake, but rather a very difficult thing to do if you're a beginner. Because writing to a pre-existing melody is pretty hard, because your syllable structure is pretty much set in stone. It is much easier to edit a melody than to fix the syllables and tweak the wording, especially if you're just beginning your songwriting journey. It's very unlikely that the melody you wrote is set in stone actually. I very much doubt that your very first song is a pure hit that could be spoiled with a couple of note changes. So I'd recommend you write your lyrics first and then find a melody that works with it. Once you're comfortable with that, you may start to slightly proceed to write lyrics to choruses, to song hooks, to top lines. Probably not verses yet. And when you're comfortable with that, go ahead and write verses. But if you're just starting your songwriting journey, lyrics come first, melodies come last. Let's try and come up with some lyrics to a pre-existing melody. Let's find sad violin. There you go, sad violin. I'm pretty sure you've heard this before. It goes something like this. We'll skip the very last note to change the melody a little bit to make it harder for us. Let's open a blank document. It's 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So 3 similar lines, and last line is a bit different. We have a pre-existing idea that the syllable structures don't matter, and that if our song is all over the place in terms of poetic meters, this is a feature, not a bug. It's what it's meant to be. Meant to be. Dun, 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 dun. Exactly how it's all meant to be. So that's the key idea. Off and allow us unbalanced. That's by all powers. See how difficult it is to find the right wording for preset syllables? Your thing, no doubt, is counting syllables. Can't live without this, you but not me. Off and unbalanced, that's by all powers, exactly how it's all meant to be. That is very hard to do, and English is not my first language, so I struggle fitting those syllables in the pre-existing melody. It gets easier with practice, but if you're a beginner songwriter, at all costs, avoid having pre-existing melodies. Write lyrics first and melodies last. Okay, now while you're subscribing to the channel and leaving a like below, mistake number 5 is using explicit lyrics. I understand some genres have it as a feature, sort of. Sometimes it even feels like certain musical trends demand having obscene and explicit lyrics. But more often so than not, it is a way for an experienced songwriter to spot an inexperienced songwriter. You know what? I say the explicit lyrics. Those obscene word users can go eat. Explicit words are normally short and easy to fill in when you need an extra syllable or something, or when you take a word out to fit in the melody, when you take a two-syllable word out and need to fit in a one-syllable word in. Those explicit words do fit in perfectly. But I'm pretty sure that filling the gaps is not the most important purpose you can have for your song lyrics. So most probably, when a beginner songwriter uses explicit lyrics, it's a symptom of a very small vocabulary. Because filling the gaps is better with synonyms, and it is much harder to pick those synonyms and fill the gaps with different wording, change the structures. It is harder, but it's more rewarding, I promise. The results are gonna be much more mature. This is the best chorus. What the buzzer did interfere? My vocabulary is enormous. It is just a bit chilly in here. So stay away from using bad words unless it really is a feature of the genre you're writing songs in, and unless it's really intentional and deliberate. Right, time for the bonus mistake. And the bonus mistake is when you're alluding to the genre you're writing in inside your song lyrics. It's like saying your metal is heavy, like metal, and metaling it all around, like saying metal in your metal song, saying heavy in your heavy song, to make sure the listener understands it is metal and it is heavy. So when you rap the rap and you rap in the rap and say rap while you're rapping, so it's a meta rap. Nah, when you're rocking and rolling inside your song lyrics. Why is it a thing? I mean, unless you want this irony around the thing, unless you want this to be comedic, please don't do that. Wearing no frock, I'm not rock. There's no shamrock at my bedrock. My rock is heavier than a crock. My rock is harder than a rock. These are the 5 mistakes, and plus the 5 mistakes from the previous video and the bonus mistake, a total of 11 mistakes. I hope you found this video useful. Please subscribe. This makes YouTube think the video is interesting and promote it to more viewers, and that's something I really need right now. And most important of all, I wish y'all all the creative success you ever need, because you're awesome. Yes, you are.